We've got the last match of the day here. It's going to be Tyler versus SamuelTsao, and it's going to be a good old-fashioned Hunter mirror. Both players bringing mid-range Hunter, and I guess taking nods from players such as Blitzchung last weekend, but also players such as Bunny Hopper, who hit multiple Rank 1 Legends on ladder this past week with mid-range Hunter. Let's check out the list, though, as we get into it. I believe both lists are at least fairly similar in most aspects. So Tyler and SamuelTsao are going to be on the mid-range, and we're going to check out Tyler's first. But to me, Gia, that looks fairly standard, except for maybe one card. Is that sneaky Rat Trap?
Yeah, I think the flex spots are definitely, whether you include 1 or 2 tracking, any secrets at all, the Headhunter's Hatchet. What is interesting to me is that Tyler and Rivius sometimes prep together, and I think this week they definitely did because they're both on the Hunter and their lists are quite similar, although we did see Rivius last week bring something different to Tyler and different to the majority of the field. But yeah, I mean, good old Hunter mirrors. This has been the story of Hearthstone as of pre this expansion, although the matchup is so different now that you don't have to rely on Dustak or Rexar, and now that things like Crackling Razor Maw that completely snowball the game out of control are no longer in contention, sometimes the game goes much longer.
Yeah, it's definitely much more leeway for each player to swing every turn. It almost feels like a bit of a rogue mirror sometimes with some of the tempo turns you can actually make, and keeping hold of tempo is super important. One extra small note there for Tyler's list is he's running double Deadly Shot, which I don't think is optimal for the mirror, but it is something we need to bear in mind when it comes to the Zul'jin turns, that if Tyler's played both, then that turn becomes even more powerful if there's something on the other side of the board. And also as well, Headhunter's Hatchet, again, not, I would say, optimal for the mirror, but is insane because Hunter cannot afford to run weapon removal because there's no beast-based weapon removal in the game right now. And being able to just equip a 2-mana 2/3 weapon most of the time against a deck where most of their minions are quite low on health is insane. It's just 2 mana, kill 3 things, and it is super, super powerful. Let's check out SamuelTsao's list, though, and see what the difference is there, because there are some. I feel like SamuelTsao's playing a much more standard variation with the double tracking, but also, most importantly for me, no weapons whatsoever, and also the double Deadly Shot, but the no Headhunter's Hatchet just almost autopilots me to say I feel like Tyler's favored in this specific mirror.
Well, looking at Tyler's list, I think the Rat Trap and the Hatchet inclusion is for the Mage matchup. The Hatchet is surprisingly good against Mage because it gets past the mirror images. Sometimes it kills Apprentices when you otherwise wouldn't be able to. And the Rat Trap can punish them for the extreme Mana Cyclone turns. And it's also decent against Rogue, although I don't think if you expect Rogue, lots of Rogue, you should be bringing Hunter at all. Whereas SamuelTsao's list, I feel like, as you mentioned, it is just the standard list. It's not tacked towards any particular matchup.
Feels like a ladder list, right?
Yeah.
This is as close in Specialist as you're probably going to see to a ladder deck that's just straight up. The one thing I would say, though, is the Rat Trap, although may not be directly there for the Hunter matchup, because SamuelTsao knows is 100% of the time Rat Trap outside of a Shimmerfly, which he'll know if the secret's been created from Shimmerfly anyway. It means that Tyler puts SamuelTsao, if that's played, on you play 2 cards a turn maximum. If you play 3, you have to be able to deal with this rat, which is a 6/6, and most decks can't proc the trap and kill it in the same turn. That's a big ask. So it's weird in an open deck format where you run 1 secret of just, well, okay, now you just play 2 cards a turn for the rest of the game, which for Hunter is very difficult. So I honestly feel these techs have worked out very, very well for Tyler.
Yeah, it could very much be the case. I am very just interested to see how they approach the mirror, because a lot of people say it goes differently, and I think that almost every single game something different happens. Like sometimes you go to the super late game when both people can land their skill hide frenzies and then just continuously heal, and then suddenly you cannot just be, you know, chucking your kill commands face preemptively and hoping you get there towards the end. And then there's other games where we saw, like with Rivius versus Frosty, when he just did the Tundra Rhino and have 30 from hand. You can do a condensed version of that in the mirror where you just kill them from 22 or something because you have Dire Frenzy
stacking up as well for a lot of the turns.
So a lot of the time also there's just one person gets to stick a hyena and the other doesn't. And
I think the matchup, I do agree, it can go tons of different ways. I was actually speaking to Sottle this morning about the matchup. I was just interested to hear his thoughts because I knew he'd been playing Hunter. And he was saying he even keeps Zul'jin in the opening hand. And he was like, I'm not 100% sure whether that's right, but my win rate is good. But my win rate might be good because if I keep it, I play the game in a style that is me knowing I have Zul'jin on 10 ready to go. So it's very interesting that, again, I probably wouldn't keep Zul'jin in the mirror personally. I'm definitely going to try it out more going forward. But yeah, this deck is way more in depth than, say, mid-range hunters of old used to be, just because of the amount of different options you have, especially with Dire Frenzy.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm also on the not keeping Zul'jin camp, but I think I've seen Sandglass stream the mirror and keep it.
Right.
And so I definitely trust him because he has been like playing mid-range hunter even before it was like
before it was cool.
Even before the Rogue nerfs, when it was like held down specifically by Rogue, and now it seems like the king of ladder decks because it just beats on Mage and deals does pretty well against Bomb Warrior too.
And so we see now there's the clash of the 1-drops with the Lynx going up against the Shimmerfly. In general, it's Tyler's got the better end of the stick with the Shimmerfly purely because, although he is a turn behind, it means that the Shimmerfly doesn't have Rush, and you don't actually need it to have Rush yet. So it means that you'll gain the spell a little bit earlier, and also he saves a Spring Paw, which means he has more flexibility later on, just because he's 1 Spring Paw up.
Yeah. In terms of hand quality, Tyler's definitely got the upper hand, being able to go double Animal Companion, and that's going to be rough for SamuelTsao to deal with. And so I like that he's taking this very proactive stance and telling Tyler, well, if you go for the Animal Companions, it's going to be much easier for me to answer them.
Both players playing double Unleash as well, just so everyone is aware. Sometimes that goes to 1, depending on what you want the deck to do. But right as of like now, it is almost certain that it's going to be double all the time. Ooh, okay.
Despite the board directly trading with Huffer, I think Huffer was the best outcome there for Tyler, so that SamuelTsao could not simply just deadly shot and be done with the turn and then push 2 damage. Now he's sat with a decision. Do you deadly shot for very little value and stick the Spring Paw for a potential Dire Frenzy stick, or do you just take it super slow? And I like the deadly shot because his hand looks like nothing if you land the Dire Frenzy.
I feel like you almost have to deadly shot, right? There are arguments for not doing it. It's called not deadly shotting a 1 health minion that you can just kill. But you need to, I agree, you need to do something next turn, and right now it's extremely likely that you can land this Dire Frenzy because Tyler maybe would have played Spring Paws by now. He wouldn't have used up the coin and used Spring Paw instead to clear the board. And also you've not seen Hatchet yet either, which again would have been a good pull. So I think you have to deadly shot. SamuelTsao is running 2 as well. So, you know, it's not as if you're out of deadly shots. And I also believe it's not often you get a good deadly shot in this matchup anyway.
Right. And I think having seen the coin Animal Companion from Tyler, I think SamuelTsao can either put Tyler on having Master's Call for this turn or the second companion, in which case the Leok is a good outcome for you because you can Frenzy and then value trade it. Even Misha, you're not too sad. It's really just another Huffer where you're like, oh no.
And now the reads become really funny, don't they? Because if my opponent just deadly shotted a 1 health Huffer, then do I kill the 1/1 to stop a Dire Frenzy the following turn? Because that is not a sacrifice you would normally make.
Well, I think Tyler now has the freedom to go for the Vicious Scale Hide onto this. What is the pick here?
It's really tough. I mean, I think I personally like the Rat Trap, but I wouldn't be too upset with a Headhunter's Hatchet, because I feel like Headhunter's Hatchet is the most consistent pick in terms of results. You probably like Hyena, don't you?
I mean, I'm looking at it and trying to see, like, his hand has no other minions than the Scale Hide. Well, I guess Animal Companion counts. But I feel like the Bestial Wrath and the Deadly Shot are removable. Bestial Wrath, of course, being a bit more conditional. That I did want to see something proactive. It looks like the Rat Trap is just not going to go off for a very long time unless you put SamuelTsao on having exactly Master's Call.
Tyler's okay with that though, right? That's my, like, if you just tell you, imagine if there's a card that just makes your opponent not be able to play more than 2 cards a turn. Like, that's just good. And if they're not doing that anyway, it means the hand's super slow and not very flexible.
Yeah, I think it was definitely close there. I could not bring myself to choose one over the other.
I think on 3 different days, I would have picked 3 different cards in that Discover, to be honest.
On Fridays, we go for Rat Trap, apparently. SamuelTsao, this is just such a sad hand. No, another deadly shot. I mean, I'm not saying it's wrong. He probably had to, but it just feels so awful.
Tyler can probably get some of those cards in SamuelTsao, or at least narrow them down to say a pool of 5 maybe. And very quickly he'll work out that it's not Unleash the Beast unless he draws one, of course.
Yeah, Zul'jin, Unleash the Beast, Frenzy
exactly,
is the pool.
yeah.
I think Frenzy is very likely, especially since SamuelTsao prioritized keeping a 1-1 on board, even though there was a 4-1 Huffer. And SamuelTsao now knows that that is exactly Rat Trap. And because he's seen Tyler use the coin, he's not scared of the response of Coin Unleash the Beast, which is the premier argument for not playing Rhino on 5. But unfortunately for him, Tyler does have an answer.
SamuelTsao is now going to reveal that the other 2 cards are even more likely to be Dire Frenzy, because Tyler will know that this Unleash the Beast came the turn after. But it does mean that SamuelTsao at least has something to do. He can make a 5-5, but the problem is Tyler gets to respond instantly.
Well, generally, what happens a lot in these mid games is one player goes Unleash the Beast, the other responds with their own, and then it happens for the next turns. They're just stalling till they get to their Zul'jin, right? And the player that plays them first has the initiative, because then you know your opponent's best response is exactly their own Unleash the Beast. And then what ends up happening, though, is that when one player pulls the trigger on Zul'jin, the other player's Zul'jin is so much better because you get value on your deadly shots, you get value on the Unleash the Beast rushes. Whereas if you play Zul'jin in the mirror onto an empty board, your mark shots don't land on anything, your deadly shots don't get value on anything.
And those situations is completely true, but it can also get quite difficult, right? Because it's not like, look at this hand, and imagine if we fast forward and this hand's turn 10. Tyler, I don't think, shouldn't not play Zul'jin, because if SamuelTsao has it, it's a better Zul'jin. Or if Tyler never plays Zul'jin because he waits for SamuelTsao, and SamuelTsao doesn't even have it, then that's a huge problem, because he could just miss out on a win itself. It's similar with this, like the turn 6 Unleash the Beast is something you have to always be aware of, especially when you've seen someone play as slow as Sam. But if you can set up into it, you can end up ahead, because you don't always need to Unleash the Beast back.
So that was a very interesting turn from Tyler. I thought he was considering between Bestial Wrath and the Kill Command. Bestial Wrath is the one that gives it immune, right? So he could have...
Yeah, but it doesn't give it rush.
Right.
So it would have just been it's plus 2 attack and immune. So it would have been Kill Command or the 1-1.
Right.
He was just looking at the card, I think, just to remind himself what it did.
Right.
It's not half Goblin Prank and half Bestial Wrath.
And half the new one, the +1/+1 rush one, right? Or +2 attack.
Oh, the plus... Wait, no.
Wait, I don't
know.
It's
+1/+1 and the minion fights another minion, right? That one?
Oh, yeah. It's basically rush in this instance.
Yes, if there's only one minion on the board, yes.
Okay. But yeah, he settled on this play, which I think looks good into expecting SamuelTsao to play exactly the second Unleash the Beast, and you know that's in hand, so I don't hate it. Because what would have happened if you kill commanded is that the Unleash the Beast then value trades the Misha, and then you're like, do I have to scale hide into a Misha? That feels awful. So I understand the play, but he will get a little bit punished now because SamuelTsao lands this value trade and could probably take another one if he wanted to, but the face looks juicy, but this both protects the scale hide and also just doesn't leave a Timberwolf on board, which is definitely one of the scariest minions to leave just chilling.
And I think as well, most importantly, the face damage combined with the hand doesn't add up to much. Whereas if the hand was more aggressive, like if SamuelTsao had double kill command, I would have been like, nope, ship that 5 to face. But his hand is more of a value board-centric hand. So although Hunter excels at being aggressive, and I think in the mirror especially, crossing that line of no return where you're so far ahead in health that you can play more aggressive, right now SamuelTsao just needs to win the board. Or continue to win the board, should I say.
It's a pretty funny game when they both don't have Master's Call. Yeah.
It is, yeah. You definitely want to be the one with the twin spells.
Tyler does have the Zul'jin just waiting, though, so...
I think I like Bestial Wrath here.
What? Just to give it 1 more health, yeah?
Just to, because it makes you immune, so your scale hide doesn't die.
Right. I'm getting all of these buff cards confused, but yes, you are a Hunter expert, Raven.
Yeah.
For years and years now.
Probably going to hold on to it because he knows there's an Unleash the Beast in hand, which means that that buff isn't permanent, so the Scale Hide goes back to a 1-3, which means that the Unleash the Beast just kills it without any effort. And with the 100% knowledge SamuelTsao has of the secret, there's no punish for Unleash the Beast this turn.
Pretty unlucky for Tyler that both Masters Call are in the bottom 16. It looks like he's drawn so much more, but
Nope.
that's just... Oh, okay.
Liar.
It was bottom 16.
Well, it's not unlucky though, it's in hand now, so it's fine.
Sure.
This is huge though, because this is
Yeah.
leading towards Zul'jin, and suddenly, unless SamuelTsao picks up a Master's Call of his own, or maybe a Zul'jin now with triple Deadly Shot, this is going to snowball out of control very, very quickly right now. That Master's Call was clutch.
If you're Tyler, though, you could be thinking the far left card from SamuelTsao Zul'jin, because that's been in hand since
That's true.
pretty much the beginning of the game. I don't know if it's worth not ripping your own Zul'jin because you're scared of the counter Zul'jin, though. Guess we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
I guess.
I kind of want the Cybertech chip just because his hand has no value.
But you can't... where's your minions to put chip on?
The Unleash the Hound is often 2 minions or so.
What if it isn't though, is the scary bit? I do see your point though. MD is just some damage, and the damage doesn't matter now. Both players are relatively high, especially with those scale
You
hides.
can guarantee getting 1 Hound by proccing the Rat Trap. 200 IQ, Raven.
How do you proc the Rat Trap?
Well, you draw Spring Paw off the top, obviously.
Okay, so this plan is getting quite in depth, and I think too in depth.
And then you can kill it with the Deadly Shot.
So then you don't even proc Cybertech chip, because none of the minions die. So SamuelTsao did go for the MD in the end.
Yeah. Those were just awful spells in this situation.
Oh, Tyler got the second Master's
Oh my
Call.
goodness, that is huge.
Oh, he got it from the Shimmerfly, so clutch. And an Unleash the Beast. This Zul'jin just became savage.
And SamuelTsao, bear in mind, he's got Scale Hides in the deck, which he does not want to draw. He's basically on either Zul'jin or Master's Call. Every other draw is kind of trash. Maybe Unleash the Beast is okay.
Yeah, this is bad, isn't it? I'm not even sure what's... I mean, the Deadly Shot seems fine.
I think, yeah.
But
It seems better than going Unleash and Kill Command. You don't want to leave the 5/5 on board.
would you... He's tough, isn't he? Excuse me, sorry. I was wondering whether you'd actually unleash Dire Frenzy and just go face and try and do something. Just because it's bad, but just because you've drawn Kill Command. But Deadly Shot seems a little bit more stable. I'm just trying to think of what are these extreme circumstances you can get to where you actually like randomly lethal Tyler. Because right now, SamuelTsao's losing
For sure.
very heavily.
But the second he gets Zul'jin, he could be in the driver's seat again because it answers the first Zul'jin very well. And we see Tyler holding off on Zul'jin for 2 reasons. One, his hand is very full, so the Master's Call would be essentially wasted there. He is testing for Rat Trap right now, I think. Sees that that is not it. See, Cybertech chip on this board.
Okay. I'm not quite sold yet, but
Results-oriented
okay. Yep.
as
Yeah, if
always.
these things exactly happen, this card is good. I will never argue that one with you.
I mean, it was pretty likely that Tyler plays something, right? So even 2 mechs here, I feel like is better, or 1 mech in hand is better than a misdirection on board, I feel.
I actually think I like pushing the damage there.
I mean, then you get very punished by like the Rhino scavenging, and you've seen double Master's Call.
I guess. I'm just trying to think of an extreme
Yeah,
way
honestly.
SamuelTsao wins without just saying draw Zul'jin. You know what I mean? Because a lot of the
Right.
time, yes, sometimes you do need 1 card in the deck to win, but you should still be looking for other ways to generate or at least make a win more likely.
No,
SamuelTsao's also running
yeah.
double tracking.
I totally agree. I mean, this is just such a desperate situation, but I feel like the 1 in 19 to draw Zul'jin is more likely than that line getting you there, but of course it's a very tough call.
I'd love to see Rhino from Tyler.
He's scared of counter Zul'jin, but obviously having seen both Deadly Shot, the Rhino is likely to stick. He's also seen 1 Unleash the Beast. And then if SamuelTsao is forced to respond to his Rhino by using Zul'jin, then Tyler's Zul'jin gets really good.
And that's the point.
yeah.
Like, if he has to deal with a Rhino and a Hyena one, he pushes damage, which is good. Two, if SamuelTsao dealing with that, it's unlikely he does anything else. And then you just go again and again and again, because Hunter cannot play that reactive for that long. Tyler's taking it super slow.
Super. Well, SamuelTsao can continue the stalling. Scale Hide Unleash, still not proccing the Rat Trap.
You could just Scale Hide Die Frenzy, depending.
Has he put this secret on exactly misdirection? Oh, it's either that or explosive, right? Because he has attacked into a minion.
Yeah.
So he knows it's not snipe either or freezing. So maybe the threat of misdirection is what prevented him from going right.
I guess.
Also, there is that argument of just holding the Rhino in hand with the Timberwolf. But I was wondering if you just go for another Master's Call in that instance. Oh wait, he's got nothing left in deck.
No.
Is it just both Dire Frenzy
I think
bottom
there's
six?
two Dire Frenzies.
Right, okay. So he definitely wants to save the last Master's Call or the Master's Calls from Zul'jin.
Yeah, he wants to. You almost always want to Die Frenzy before Zul'jin, unless the Die Frenzy is putting on so much pressure it just gets you lethal anyway, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you definitely want to Die Frenzy before Zul'jin, because it adds so much extra value to the deck.
Right.
Now, Tyler has just a completely reasonable Unleash the Hounds here as well.
Hound.
Yeah, Unleash the Hound, the doggo. Mainly because you just want it in the Zul'jin pool, I find a lot of the time. It makes the counter Zul'jin good as well, and especially... Wait.
Probably...
I'm being... Oh no, was Tyler... Tyler was on coin, right?
Yes.
So Unleash is really good with Zul'jin because he can coin out Timberwolf. Or Zul'jin coins and he Timberwolves, should I say.
I think...
Beast Rat number 2.
The second...
Imagine the trade-ups.
Crazy. The second Tyler draws Dire Frenzy, the game is super over because he just puts it on the Timberwolf and then Rhino with the Timberwolf gets there.
And the most...
That's something. So now this is the dance of the Zul'jins.
Can SamuelTsao even wait? I don't think so. He knows this 5/5 dies because he's got about 1,000 deadly shots in the pool.
Yes.
And also, most importantly, he has played a Dire Frenzy.
What's annoying is that he hasn't played a Master's Call though, so this is not actually drawing him cards from his deck. I don't think he's played a Tracking either. It will get him the Unleash the Beasts though.
Right. And I think he needs to do something. With Tyler's deck so thin, he knows roughly what Tyler's plan is right now.
Yeah.
And because SamuelTsao's not seen a Dire Frenzy, and Tyler's seemingly waiting for it, maybe he should just go.
This just seems like a catch-22 because, like, with so few cards left in deck, you can definitely put Tyler on having Zul'jin. And once your Zul'jin gets answered, I think that's just GG because then if you get the Master's Calls after that, it's way too slow. On the other hand, the longer he waits, the more time he gives Tyler to assemble the Timberwolf, Dire Frenzy, and Tundra Rhino OTK.
See, my issue with the Dire Frenzy is more cards are being shuffled in when you don't have Master's Call.
Yeah, it's
so
just
should you have
hard.
just may as well have played Zul'jin?
And just like use Kill Command there maybe. I mean, I feel like the stalling for one more turn can work out because Tyler doesn't have the combo yet.
It's just weird though because you're stalling for one more turn, but you put 3 more cards in your deck. So you've actually made it worse.
I was
at least
thinking,
to me.
Yeah. I mean, I think maybe just Scale Hide and Kill Command there, and not just.
Oh, maybe, yeah. At least Kill Command's in the pool as well, then.
Yeah. It's crazy. He hasn't even played things like Mark Shot, right? So not even that is generating spells, which could possibly be generation for card draw. So honestly, I don't think I've seen a worse mid-hunter draw.
I think it was also bad because it's the mirror.
Oh yeah,
and the pressure's very even. It meant SamuelTsao had to make certain plays, whereas if he was against certain other decks, he maybe could have played a little bit slower, or even maybe played a little bit more all in.
Is there a world he ever gets there by just holding the Kill Command, drawing the other one, and then maybe this misdirection Tyler messes up a bit and takes 5 to the face?
I mean, there's definitely a way that happens.
But then Tyler's just got the Zul'jin. Oh my god, finally! A Master's Call. I think we're doing that. You want that in the pool for the Zul'jin.
Right. Even if, that said, draw 3 cards with Zul'jin later, you'd still play it this time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Problem is, if he procs the kill command, he also procs the rat trap, which will be immediately respawned by Zul'jin should Tyler play it next turn. Although, if Tyler Zul'jin's first, I think you're pretty happy because then your Zul'jin is great. So I think...
I don't want to proc a rat trap here. It's so much damage. And it might be too much damage to recover from. So even if you have the second Zul'jin, the Zul'jin's going to die frenzy stuff and draw cards. So whoever Zul'jin's first also gets to play their Master's Called cards first, which means there are benefits and negatives to both, of course. But I think you can't afford to just take 6 here.
Yeah, I can definitely see this. The 6 wouldn't be guaranteed because of the misdirection.
Right.
But I think that just making the 5 maybe go to Tyler's face because of the misdirection accomplishes the same thing, and you keep the kill command in hand.
Right,
so
okay. Because you could get, or at least Tyler could guarantee it with Unleash the Hounds though, right?
Right.
So you could Unleash, put one in and see what happens, and then push.
Right.
And here we
so
go.
I'm curious about just playing the Springfall there. Yeah, so now Tyler's created this situation where...
He kills someone.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
SamuelTsao has the Zul'jin or he's dead, and then Tyler responds with his own Zul'jin, and I think that's checkmate with the amount of deadly shots and other things that have been played.
I mean, Tyler might not even need Zul'jin right now.
Well, I do think SamuelTsao's forced on his Zul'jin, so Tyler will need his own Zul'jin to deal with all the 5/5s.
Does he... okay, one dies. Yeah, okay.
Is there a way to
I was wondering whether
Zul'jin one more
I was
turn?
wondering whether like Unleash Timberwolf with the Rhino was enough.
Maybe.
Because if we're imagining the board's what, more or less full.
Yeah.
Because you don't need it to be full because you're playing the Rhino and the Wolves anyway. So you only need it to be what, 4 cards, 4 minions on board to create the dogs.
Yeah. SamuelTsao will be at 31, so I think it's unlikely that the Unleash gets there, but I mean still, just the responding Zul'jin is absolutely insane.
Bestial Rats for days in this game.
Yeah. I will learn what that card does. Bestial Wrath, Goblin Prank, and the new one. I don't know the name of it.
I want to say, is it Beast Within?
Yes, I think
+1,
so. That sounds correct.
+1, your minion attacks a random enemy minion.
It's all these buff cards that never get hard included in any Hunter deck ever.
That's why playing World of Warcraft is useful.
Yeah. Maybe the board doesn't get that full. Did he play?
But you only need 4 minions though, right?
Yeah, but this doesn't get there. It's just second Zul'jin. I mean.
Here comes a bigger.
So 2 deadlies. Tyler has 2 deadly, right? In the.
Has he played both? I know he's played 1.
Even if both haven't been played, the 5/5s should be able to clear off the responding thing.
He tracking away one of the wolves.
Oh, okay.
It's the problem with his bottom 2. One of the cards being Die Frenzy. This ordering isn't perfect, but...
Just watching a show now. I think it's just very important to think about your Zul'jin turn before it happens, because you want a Zul'jin immediately and then respond after the animations finish, which doesn't always get to happen.
No.
But as long as he clears all these minions, he is
Withdraws one of the
totally
buff
fine.
Leox. Misha's definitely not bad. Oh, these Bestial Wraths is actually pretty safe.
Both players just played about 80 mana worth of things.
Yeah. And now SamuelTsao's like, can I replay Zul'jin, please?
He's not even got an Unleash the Hounds to respond to this.
I mean, he's just dead, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Especially when you know that Tyler's got either Timberwolves or Leox next turn, because that's what was Dire Frenzied in, and then tracking.
I think this matchup played out one of the 3 different ways I most often see the mirror. Outside of the card draw mishaps, I would say SamuelTsao got very, very unfortunate to a degree I have not seen so far. But just in general, the principle of like holding out to the late game and then forcing your opponent into a situation where they need to Zul'jin first, and then your Zul'jin is so much better. And that's one way you win the mirror. The other 2 ways, perhaps we get to see that in game 2 and maybe game 3.
Maybe.
And this can just be the crash course in mid-range Hunter.
Big question for me is how the tech works, because Just while SamuelTsao trying to work out what he can do with his many cards, Tyler's secondary deck has a second Hatchet, a Henchclan Hogsteed, a Revenge of the Wild, and most importantly, maybe 2 Witchwood Grizzlies.
Yeah, I don't think this is very good for the mirror at all. This is meant for things like Token Druid, perhaps. Maybe Zoo, Witchwood Grizzly, and Token Druid are
Maybe it's a decent mirror card though, mirror deck though. You don't lose that much.
I think cutting the Deadly Shots and the Rhino and an Unleash the Beast are all pretty bad in the mirror when it goes in this kind of game to the long game. But there are instances where just going aggro early on gets you there. But Hunter just has so much value these days that
it's nuts,
when you run, it's essentially a control mirror, and you run less value and you don't win that way sometimes.
It's just funny because it used to be the class that never played like that. It was always, okay,
For
by
sure.
turn 7, I'm out of cards. I hope I did enough damage.
This has to be uber lethal, right? But I guess he's thinking about the misdirection stuff. So it's not guaranteed because misdirection, you could proc it with 1 Hound.
Yeah, just got to do the numbers on what it means if the Leok dies, right?
Yeah, this might not be lethal even if the Hound works because 17 plus the Rhino and is the Direwolf a 4/4?
Oh, he traded first, okay.
To prevent the Hound from killing the Leok, I guess. I guess he did not have guaranteed lethal there, so it was just safer to do it this way. And yeah, Tyler's like not dead this turn, but
So do you die frenzy? I guess it doesn't matter now. Maybe it does. Do you die frenzy the dog?
I don't hate it.
Because it's just to maybe draw 1 mana 4/4 with charge. I do like the snipe.
Yes.
I definitely like the snipe. A die frenzy. Oh, okay.
I'm just pushing it
Seems
now.
pretty expensive, but whatever. It's more damage now, isn't it?
Yeah, this just...
I thought you missed 5
Wait,
damage
wait,
then.
wait,
I was
wait.
like, ooh.
Now do the skill hides get SamuelTsao out of range?
There's a lot of damage there.
If
though,
all
right?
3 of those are 4/6s, I don't think they are though. Maybe 2 of them are.
There's also still a kill command.
And he's got the Bestial Wrath. So,
But he has to play around snipe too.
well, the 4/6 survives snipe, I think. It's good.
Oh, sure.
And he will see immediately that it's snipe and the other one is rat trap. So I don't think there's a way he gets through this turn without proccing the rat trap is the problem.
This gonna hurt.
I also don't see a great way of dealing with the 8/8 and the 5/5
Yeah,
and the
Bestial-
6/6 rat trap.
Well, that's it, right? The Bestial Wrath helps. It's really funny, isn't it, that the rat trap's been live all game, pretty much. You know, from maybe like what, turn 3 was it also? Turn 3 was the tracking into rat trap, right? And it's not been procced, but it's definitely limited SamuelTsao's players.
For sure. Okay, so 22, there's 8 on board. Tyler needs 16 from hand. Sorry, 14. And,
Yeah.
oh,
No, wait.
he messed up. But it won't matter most of the time, right?
Did he?
Over 2.
I don't know what he
I think he
thought.
thought he had 1 more mana. He hovered over the
Tyler,
Timberwolf.
5 at
Yeah.
5.
I don't know if he had lethal this turn.
So, if he pushes, it'll be... The Timberwolf is buffed, right? So it'll be 4, 12, 13... He could have pushed 18 and kill commanded? Oh no, it would have been... He could have pushed 20?
I think it was just short of
Yeah, I
lethal,
think
the
it was
other way
close.
around. And yeah, does SamuelTsao have a way out now? This is
Tyler's unhappy with his slime.
for sure. Yeah.
It's weird. I generally wonder. I think he might have, just thought that he could have played the Timberwolf randomly. But I feel like the Wyvern being a 5 cost is just a known thing. I feel like Die Frenzy and Wyverns happens all the time.
The problem is SamuelTsao, I don't think he has a way of punishing Tyler because there's still that problem of not being able to deal with an 8-8 and the rat trap if you proc it.
The real problem here is SamuelTsao doesn't actually have a way to win the game. He's not dying quite yet.
Fatigue is his win condition.
Well,
which is crazy. Though.
Right. But I'm pretty sure with 18 million 5/5s that Tyler can keep summoning every turn.
Yeah, the big difference here is that Tyler has been sitting on that Rhino forever, and he has always had like the two-pronged kind of approach to the matchup, which is Zul'jin for control and then threaten with your own lethal.
Yeah, and Tyler, he went out a little bit long there, but Tyler did get there. He was always in a pretty strong controlling position, mainly just for how late the Masters calls rocked up for SamuelTsao, but most importantly, Tyler ended up getting Masters Call a little bit late himself, but then ended up pretty much back-to-back and really took control after the Zul'jin plays. There was a little bit of maybe confusion or just a bit of as I throw my paper everywhere. Just, you know, everyone drops just something just for a second, so maybe there was just that moment where Tyler thought he could play the Timberwolf as well, but it didn't make a huge impact on the overall outcome of the game, and he leads versus SamuelTsao 1-0. Is this going to be a quick hunter sweep? We're going to find out after this.
Dalaran will be ours! Once we land, you know what to do! No we don't. You didn't tell us to play it. I didn't think I had to. It's perfectly obvious. Bank! I am to be robbing the bank! I take henchmen for vault smashing and shiny stealing! Plan is obvious! It's a start, yes, but...
You won't get a single coin unless you take care of the city's guards. Let's rip open Violet Hole and unleash the prisoners on the city. That'll keep the guards busy.
Certainly, but that's not...
No! First, we must sow chaos in the streets.
I got rockets. Anyone need rockets? Try to see the big picture. Shiny, shiny, shiny.
We have to break their will before we can loot, you fools!
Please, everyone, please.
Let's drop some rockets to the city.
Oh, big candle. And then we just take the whole shebang wherever we want. Yes! Finally, you're exactly right.
Seriously?
That's dumb.
Weak candle.
Just wait till second gear kicks in.
It's just like I said. We're going to take Dalaran for all that it's got. It's a genius plan. It's simple. It should have been obvious. And absolutely nothing will go wrong.
So, genius, how do we land?
One night, I was called on to scry. But what is this symbol I spy? It's my own crystal ball. Yes, I'll answer the call. And the others will come by and by. That's right. We be calling a team in. The masters of plotting and scheming. By this candle a-glowing, I surely be knowing whose gold will be once more a-gleaming.
We're going to get back to it with this Hunter mirror between Tyler and SamuelTsao. Tyler got the better end of the stick in game number 1, and I think that there was limited stuff SamuelTsao could actually do. I think he made some decent plays to hold on to it. But let's check out what they've decided to move to in game number 2. They can move to their secondary or tertiary deck. And I believe that Tyler has actually gone to his tertiary deck with a +1 tracking, the Elic, the Tundra Rhino, and 2 high mains at the expense of a Springpaw, Hyena, Deadly Shot, and an Unleash. What do you make of this?
Yeah, it's super interesting because the tertiary is primarily there to deal with warriors, I think. But something like Savannah Highmane can be very good in the mirror just because it's so difficult to deal with, but I think it's conditionally good, just like in the old mid-range hunter mirrors. Like, people were saying, Highmane's nuts in the mirror, others were like, it's really bad. Well, it's bad if you fall behind in the early stages of the of the game, and that's a possibility when you're cutting Springpaw, when you're cutting Headhunter's Hatchet, and to some extent Deadly Shot. And I also think Unleash the Hounds is quite useful as well in the mirror. Very conditionally, though. I think it's really tough to say because these hunter mirrors can go in so many different directions.
I think that's exactly the point, right? We've talked about the way the mirror plays out. It's not always the same way, but it's one of X amount of ways. Right. And if, just such as the previous game where it went to the late game Zul'jins and the big, dive frenzies were made, etc., we can check out SamuelTsAo's list right now as well. But if it goes to that late game point, then yes, Tyler's list is better. The real question is, well, does he get to that late game point with these cards missing? SamuelTsAo actually moved to his secondary deck, so both players being full believers in Savannah Highmane, I approve, but an additional Tundra Rhino, a Stranglethorn Tiger, and a Life Drinker at the cost of double Unleash and double Tracking and a Deadly Shot. What about this one?
I mean, again, meant for warrior, but I think it kind of works out well if your opponent, if you know your opponent's moving to tertiary and they're cutting Springpaw, maybe you can cut your Unleash, right?
Right.
And they're cutting, I think, Hyena as well. You need less removal, so maybe you can cut the Deadly Shot. It's very difficult to say, but I think the Tiger is great in the mirror because just being able to stick something, especially when they're cutting a Deadly Shot. I don't know if Tyler cut one. I don't think he did, but if that's a thing, then just sticking something to be able to push face with is super relevant.
Yeah, Tyler did cut a Deadly Shot, so you are right there. And honestly, the Stranglethorn Tiger, I'm a fan of in any sort of side hunter deck. And I feel like Stranglethorn Tiger has been one of the cards that's consistently been so close into making it to just standard hunter lists for literal years now, because it's so solid. It's just a 5-mana 5/5. The stealth makes it way more reliable to get the damage off, and then you can start building on if you Tiger and then the following turn trade into high and then play a high main. That is very difficult to come back from because the Tiger normally still survives the trade as well. So it's pretty huge. So I think if I had to call it, I prefer SamuelTsAo's list. Since both players are shifting, I think I prefer SamuelTsAo's here. So I think we might get a reverse sweep.
I think I actually am going to go the other way and say I prefer Tyler's because he's adding a tracking actually, which I thought was counterintuitive for the warrior matchup because you generally don't want to fatigue too much.
Right.
And I think tracking is great in the mirror just because you need to draw into exactly Master's Call and Zul'jin at some point, and having that consistency and maybe getting rid of the cards you'd rather not have in the matchup could be very relevant. The Tiger for SamuelTsAo is definitely a big thing in his favor, though, because a lot of the times you just don't have something good to do on turn 5 in the mirror because you spend the early turns removing your own things, probably Mark Shot on 4. You don't want a Rhino on 5 because we saw how relevant it was in Tyler's game. Although you can do that now that both players are running 2 Rhinos, I think.
Right. There's a little bit more freedom to play out on curve. I just think SamuelTsAo's deck, although there's definitely alarm bells going off at double tracking being removed, but suddenly when you look at this hand, it starts getting a little bit scary. Like, there is just a pretty or a heavier curve overall for SamuelTsAo, and even has the Life Drinker as a more consistent 4-drop too. So there is actually just more there's a 4-drop and then 2 5-drops and 2 6-drops added to the list, which means that, okay, Tyler might be playing for the late game, but SamuelTsAo might just not let him get there. Yeah,
and he's just got a stellar curve, the complete opposite of what he had last game, and now he's got none of the reactive cards and all of the proactive stuff.
Right.
That's going to be a big pain for Tyler to deal with because the Deadly Shot will not guaranteed hit this Hyena, which I would very much like to see being played right now.
Yeah, especially because Tyler actually cut his one Headhunter's Hatchet.
Yeah.
So there's very limited to no removal for this Hyena actually, and there's very little risk and a
Tyler's
lot
face.
gained.
Yeah, tons of risk. He needs exactly Huffer. Because these things, they die to Lynx. Oh my goodness, Raven. What this does, though, I mean, yeah, the Timberwolf will still be on board, so the deadly shot won't be guaranteed.
I was just about to say that the sick thing about this play actually comes up very often, the Timberwolf into second Lynx push. And this is good because it's protected from deadly shot to a certain extent, where at worst deadly shots are 50-50, which is good for you. And now Tyler, assuming the face of someone who is upset about the way the game's going.
So this is the second of the 3 ways that I see the Hunter Mirror player out, which is one Hyena goes unanswered and GG.
Boom. He has to deadly shot.
Yep.
Literally doesn't have a choice.
Close his eyes and play the card.
Oh,
and
GG.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know what Tyler can draw because he's also cut one of his 2 deadly shots, so he doesn't have that. We're getting to the point where Mark's shot is going to be out of range too.
Yeah.
And even this Rhino to clear up this 1-1, which means the flexibility of kill command is out the window.
I mean, this game is over in very, very quick fashion. And even though it looks like a complete blowout, that's just the price you pay when you're moving between decks. And I really wonder, is Tyler gonna stay on this?
Well, that was one of the quickest games of Hearthstone we've seen in Grandmasters. Tyler had it in hands. And sometimes you just get got. And that's what SamuelTsao did. And again, I
Didn't know I was casting with Admirable, but yes.
look, I've spent many years with these people. Some of their sayings do rub off on me sometimes. But yeah, this is a big deal. Like I said, just looking at the decks, SamuelTsao added a much more consistent curve, whereas Tyler added some late game and kind of the same.
Yeah.
But there were still some cards that were missing. And honestly, Headhunter's Hatchet, I feel, is good in the mirror. Maybe I'm just wrong. But I feel that that card has been one of the better cards in the mirror for me. But since that was lightning fast, we're going to go to a break lightning fast, and we'll be back with the final game of today. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back.
So you're probably wondering why I gathered you here. Let me take a moment and break it down. We've been given black eyes by the good guys. Oh, but that's about to change. Those meddlesome mortals who've mocked up our missions will finally feel some of our pain. You see, I have a devious plan that requires a demonstrative fist, and each of you will have your dreams come true as a fiendish finger of peace.
What?
All right. Let me try this again. Alone all our dreams went.
Kaboom!
Yes, but united we'll take
the candle.
no thing bigger.
I'm seeing what you want to do.
Let me hear it.
We'll come together so we can dismantle.
Now here's the plot to capture your greed and intrigue. We'll take Galaran for all that it's got. As we form an evil league.
Each teammate I'm calling has stories. This tale's about riches and glories. Deep down in the earth, a king dreams of rebirth and refilling his gold inventories. Such a shame to have lost all that treasure. Join up, be a kobold of leisure. The cards now be calling. Someone new, no more stalling. And we next will be taking her measure. The cards see a heart that is stony, and a totem that's all kinda bony. This witch in such danger will soon be no stranger, 'cause she's gonna be our new crony. We welcome you into this room, and we promise your enemies doom. Just one more who's coming. The last one I summon is a fella who makes things go boom.
Final game of the day here in the Asia Pacific region of Grandmasters, and it's Tyler versus SamuelTsao. It's a long drawn out game number 1, and then a stomping in a couple of minutes in game number 2 as SamuelTsao did even it up. So now I feel like we just need the third way that the matchup is played out, and we've just hosted a Hunter Masterclass for everyone here. But I do believe both players are sticking to their decks that they played in the last game. So Tyler's slightly slower, but with more fetch with the tracking. But SamuelTsao's much more of just extra minion curve going on here. So let's see how it goes.
I think this has potential for way number 3, and that way I think is halfway between both, which is where they kind of go back and forth with the removal in the early games, but one player generally just gets to push a little bit of damage with 1 or 2 minions remaining throughout the mid game, and before the Zul'jin can come down, barring the possibility of your opponent going for Lifesteal Frenzy, sorry, Scalehide Frenzy, might as well just call it Lifesteal because that's the card in a nutshell. Then your opponent can just get there by chucking kill commands at your face, or even just a smaller condensed version of Rhino and a couple Timberwolves, even though they're not Dire Frenzied.
I see just a small thing there. SamuelTsao having to make the trade because he doesn't have a Hyena, and if Tyler does have a Hyena, him pushing 1 extra face damage is a nightmare because then he can make the trade happen himself. There is, though, the Animal Companion or the Master's Call for SamuelTsao, so he has the dream turn 3 of just the choice of what he wants to go for.
I didn't hate Hyena on 2 there from Tyler, knowing that SamuelTsao does not play Hatchet.
Yeah.
And what's the answer on turn 3? You'd have to see double Spring Paw, which is like, you're not sad if they're doing that to get rid of the Hyena. So the Hyena, I think, the later the game goes, the worse it is in the matchup.
So you think you'd be okay with Coin Hyena now then?
No, now...
Do you think holding the coin's worth it with
the
Hyena?
Absolutely, I think so.
It's tough though, because his bridge to that turn is kind of lacking, right?
So this turn is kind of bad to Spring Paw, but it does deny just an easy animal companion. It denies a Master's Call, I think. Unless...
I think you Master's Call to get the Spring Paw, right?
Sure.
And then to go... Because
Okay,
it is
so
also only 3 damage. Oh, it's gone
yeah.
for... Wow, okay. Okay.
Doesn't quite deny it, but at least makes it awkward. And Tyler gets, I guess, pretty much his plan here. Something sticks, and the Huffer there is... I think all the outcomes would have been okay because he could have like fit in the Mark shot, the Arcane shot as well.
Right.
But yeah, SamuelTsao has the response with the Mark shot.
Yeah, the idea being that the Animal Companion on curve is 100% of the time dead.
Yeah.
Master's Call number 2.
Never hate another one, yeah. Although the hand is super heavy.
That's why your Master's Call draws you cheaper stuff. You have the 2 rhinos in hand.
Make a strong point. With the secret plan, the only good secret I think is Rat Trap. There's a world where you can set up the freezing onto Hymain, although it's very unlikely that it goes off when Spring Paws are in the deck. Oh, but Tyler did cut one for this list, so... Oh, he takes Unleash, which is the last one I considered. Because, I mean, he cut double Unleash in this list, right? Yeah, SamuelTsao doesn't have any natural ones, so maybe just having that flexibility in case Tyler goes wide somehow. It's very close.
I'm guessing Tyler did just track in. Yeah, he put the Master's Call. Not too much of a surprise with his hand. I do wonder what he does with his hand now, because there is 1 additional kill command that he got from the spell. Oh, this is so
Tiger on
nice.
curve! Again! Not that it was that big of a deal last game, but...
I wonder if he goes for the real dream, though. The Rhino into charging Hymain.
Oh,
He has a spare one, and
think-
what's the answer?
Well, Coin Unleash the Beast, I think, is the
yeah.
huge punish. I definitely like the Tiger here. Like, your opponent probably answers with their own high main in that case, and then you get to trade that off and then play your own high main. And I think you're pretty happy with how it pans out, two 2/2s versus your own
Right.
high main here. Now he has the deadly shot though, so things could go a little bit differently. He could go for Elic deadly shot.
It wouldn't be too bad. It would use up the coin, but he's swiftly getting to the point in the game where Tyler doesn't need the coin to progress that many of his turns. This could be the one swing turn he really wants.
I also want to highlight that with the Unleash the Hounds pick a while ago, it looks very strange, but because the Hunter mirrors can go in so many different ways, like I mentioned, it's more difficult than in other classes, I would say, to choose the right discovered options.
Especially when you know it's unlikely that the card gets played soon because you have a 5-drop into a 6-drop into, then maybe gets played in 3 turns down the line. It's a lot of foresight you require to actually make calls like that, especially when all 3 or even 2 out of 3 cards are good. It's kind of tough.
So it feels bad to trade away the 5/5 like this, but the other option of just going Deadly Shot Unleash doesn't feel great.
Could he ever high main and push?
Push face. Ooh, that's interesting.
Because
I like that.
you're always one ahead on board. You're always one big minion ahead on board. And what does Tyler do? And also it means Deadly Shot is tough because there's either a trade into a high main and Deadly Shot, or a trade into the 5/5 and Deadly Shot where you have 2 2/2s versus their 2/2s, except you have initiative because then it's your turn.
Tyler staying hydrated there. Not playing Water Rogue, but it's always good to have water.
Hydrated. Face, SamuelTsao. I'm channeling my inner hunter powers. I do feel like trading into the high main is a massive waste of damage. I love this play from SamuelTsao.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. It's clearly been a while since I've played Stranglethorn Tiger in anything, but it definitely makes sense.
The best thing about Tiger is it deals 5 damage to face very consistently. Now it gets, and this is maybe a sideways benefit that SamuelTsao isn't 100% aware of, because we can see Tyler's hand and he cannot, is that Tyler was the one who probably wishes he was doing the play SamuelTsao did, because he has double kill command, an arcane shot, dire frenzy for extra damage, a hero power of course. So Tyler's had to use his cards a little bit defensively now. He still has an additional, he has basically 3 kill commands throughout the deck. And now SamuelTsao, yes, he only has a 2/2 versus a high main, but he can just keep pushing damage, and I think I like the aggressive approach. Because if Tyler's going to trade once, he'll trade twice, and then maybe even 3 times. Animal Companion, Dire Frenzy, let's go.
I do like the approach from SamuelTsao, but I think for Tyler, he's not too sad about having to be the one playing control here, because he now has the scale high Dire Frenzy, which is so crucial when the matchup pans out this way.
The biggest problem for him, though, is that he does not have a Master's Call to get at least a second scale hide, almost guaranteed. I can't 100% say which unique beasts are in the deck right now, so I'm not sure if it is guaranteed, but it's close. I just like Dire Frenzy go.
Well, I think maybe you start with the companion.
Dire Frenzy and Animal Companion I won this turn.
If you get Leok or Huffer, is there any world where you trade?
No.
Oh, now you just frenzy the Huffer. 100%. Yes.
There is no world you trade with a Huffer. A Huffer goes face. Lesson number 1. Lesson number 2, Stranglethorn Tiger also goes face.
I was just thinking, if you get Leok,
my
mistake, do you trade in your 3/2?
Maybe.
But
because you could unleash as well, though, which would clear. So maybe it'll be worth with Leok. But now the 2 game plans kind of collide. Right? There's the Tyler's more control style approach with this Vicious Scale Hides now, and SamuelTsao has both Huffers in the deck. So the benefit, though, both players, it's actually fair and square. Both players have Master's Call too.
Yeah. I mean, Tyler having drawn the Master's Call, I think, is very comfortable now that he knows that.
That was a huge draw.
Yeah. Bunch of healing just waiting. I don't know if SamuelTsao necessarily wants to deal with the 2 2/2s. But definitely the scale height needs to go. But I feel like leaving the 2/2s there helps you with your Unleash the Hounds game plan. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a guaranteed way to deal with the scale height without having Tyler heal more.
Or just believe in the power of Deadly Shot. This is probably as good as it's going to get, right?
So it's a full clear, and Tyler goes basically to full 26 equals 30 as far as I'm concerned. And the game has reset, essentially.
It has, and it really is just Huffers versus
Scale Hides.
Versus
Yeah.
Scale Hides. It sounds like a weird Warcraft 3 custom map.
I think this might be reverting to number 1 again of
The
the
control
3
matchup?
ways. Yeah. Although it could still go differently because of those buffed Huffers. They present so much burst potential that if SamuelTsao can get a buffed Direwolf in the pool and then just having one, yeah.
Buffer.
Can we buff Animal Companion too? And you just always get Huffer. Like officially.
Oh, sometimes
officially.
sometimes Misha's really good though. Misha can tag team him. We can just leave Leok out.
Okay, so I feel like some measure of Deadly Shot is happening this turn.
You want to trade with a Huffer?
I just want to kill the 4/5, and it seems like that's the only guaranteed way to do so. Feels awful, but you still got 2 more of them.
And also,
chilling
when
in the
Tyler's
deck.
at 30 health, this 7 damage, although is extremely powerful to go to face, of course, the value of this actually deals more damage in the long run because the heals don't come down as often. So this is kind of dealing the damage anyway. SamuelTsao can whip in a hero power and, as you said, kind of like start from scratch again with the reset.
Yeah. Though Tyler's definitely looking to be in a better position with just a variety of things he can do with his hand. It's not just saying one thing, right? Oh, that
so
too.
sick.
Buffs the Zul'jin.
Arcane shot to kill the Huffer and just hero power.
Yeah, seems great. You
See-
might drop a Spring Paw.
And this is
I
getting
don't-
scarier and scarier now because Tyler's can just Zul'jin next turn. And I like these because he has cards like Arcane Shot in the pool.
Right.
When he plays Zul'jin, it's always good to have multiple beasts, so there's less chance that if you have one beast and it dies because a kill command hits it, then you're missing Dire Frenzies and some other stuff, and damage potentially.
Also, it's early enough in the game where you're not worried about the counter Zul'jin because SamuelTsao has not played too many spells. He's played
Right.
what, a Companion, a Frenzy. He's not played Deadly Shots. He's not played Unleash the Beast.
Yeah, he
which are the
played one Deadly Shot.
did
He just did it on the Scale Hide, right?
Oh, right,
Yeah.
sorry, yeah. But he's not played Unleash the Beast, which is the
Which
kicker.
is the big board fill.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think Tyler's fine to be first Zul'jin in this matchup. So maybe this is like way 4 or way 1B, where it is a control matchup, but first Zul'jin turns it a bit aggro at the end.
I think as
I don't
well,
know.
it started quite aggressively, but when the aggressive strategies counter themselves, the game naturally proceeds,
Right.
right? And then cards like Dire Frenzy are drawn.
Maybe there's just more than 3 ways, but my brain is not big enough to comprehend more than 3. There's only 3 animal companions.
Able to squeeze in the Life Drinker as well.
Yeah.
Bit of a shame to miss out on 2 damage from the hero power, but having the body on board is important just to keep the pressure up, because otherwise that would just be a 1-2, and that wouldn't be very good. Tyler now could play Zul'jin, but he's deciding to just front load all of this
Yeah.
right now, get as
Juice
much
it
value
up.
as possible. There's another Unleash the Beast, an Explosive Trap, Master's Call. Maybe Explosive Trap wouldn't be the end of the world.
Honestly, he's
play-
played...
He's played 2 Master's Calls,
Yeah,
right?
so you never need the 3rd one
Right.
with Zul'jin already loaded up. So
And Unleash the Beast is a long, long, long time to play another 2,
Yeah.
which means I think Explosive's fine, because if it gets procced, great, it might kill a couple of minions, and most importantly, it's something that Zul'jin can reactivate
Yeah.
and cause some problems for SamuelTsao.
no, I like it just as being a throwaway pick, essentially. It's
Right.
like one less space in your hand, the easiest to cast post your
Oh.
Zul'jin. Very sad. The double Rhino hand.
Especially when they actually just get farmed by what's on board already.
This is a fat hero power pass, looks like to me.
Yeah, I don't really know what.
Oh, you might Rhino face? Maybe?
You could.
You could kill the 5/4, but it really,
you
really hurts
could.
your soul if you do that.
Maybe you just Rhino face and let Tyler do something.
I feel like,
because the
yeah.
mana cost is so expensive that you never. If this is your approach, then you're never going to play 2 Rhinos. SamuelTsao is not going to play these 2 Rhinos.
Yeah.
So at least play 1 and go face and then just press hero power. He's going to choose to push even more damage. And you know what? I like this. This is correct
Yeah.
because SamuelTsao needs to draw Zul'jin. That's just a fact.
Yes.
If he draws Zul'jin, that's 10 mana. If he draws Zul'jin whilst pushing damage, he might win.
Wow, Tyler is just... I mean, I kind of wanted to see the Zul'jin there.
So my question is, does this just get him just as ahead, if not more, than playing Zul'jin? I think it does.
Yeah,
he gets to
it's-
push 5 damage to face, he progresses more minions, he heals as well.
Sure.
And so this does everything Zul'jin you want to do anyway. He gets the explosive trap down, so if it does get procced, if SamuelTsao keeps going aggressive, it's fine.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
This just locks SamuelTsao out of the game, to be completely honest. Zul'jin might have
This
done the same, but why risk it?
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. No, you're absolutely right, because this even beats the counter Zul'jin now.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So it's like, why risk it? This does enough.
Yeah.
Maybe even more. Maybe this does more than what a Zul'jin would actually achieve
Yeah,
that turn.
because
You get the heal down, you still pushing damage, so on and so on. And Tyler has a Zul'jin in
Yeah,
hand,
and
which just has to be good.
And because SamuelTsao had so few minions, things could happen like your mark shots hitting your own stuff, and it just kind of cancels
Sure.
out. So, yeah, I definitely like that from Tyler. And I think he knows he's got this one in the bag. So can this Zul'jin go terribly wrong? It can't, because there's a deadly shot. And you never spawn minions for your opponent, so the Rhino always gets cleared. Worst case scenario is your own minions also get cleared by things like Mark Shot and kill command. If that's
Even
played.
if
Yeah.
your Dire Frenzy hits SamuelTsao's Rhino,
Yes.
it either doesn't hit, or it hits and then it gets deadly
Deadly shot,
shot, so
yeah.
it's fine.
And in that case, you have more Rhinos in your deck. Woohoo! This is, I think, always Zul'jin. But does this lose to the counter Zul'jin? I would also say no, because SamuelTsao
Well, also, it gives SamuelTsao
looks
one
like he's already
single
asleep.
draw.
Yeah.
SamuelTsao's just napping ready for his next match tomorrow.
Yep. And to be
Oh, sorry, on
honest,
Sunday, actually.
I don't blame it at all. I mean, I don't think, barring the nutty second game, of course, the draws panned out very well for him. I think with the plays we've seen from him, he did understand the matchup quite well, especially like that Stranglethorn Tiger going face.
Yes, I like that a lot, yeah.
But yeah, sometimes,
Sometimes one player draws Zul'jin and the other player does not.
yeah. And the Master's Call,
Yep.
too.
Honestly, if you want any Hunter advice, generally, mulligan for Master's Call. It'll never be that bad.
Yeah. Agreed.
Right, if the one thing you do in Hunter is mulligan for Master's Call, then you are going to do something right at least, and that is going to be the game. Unfortunately for SamuelTsao, where he got so heavily locked out of the 2 games he did lose,
Yes.
but great job for Tyler taking the win there, and good for Tyler's future as well, because he is going to be facing Shaxi, and Shaxi also has a Hunter on Sunday, so it means that, you know, the more he's doing well in these Hunter mirrors, the more he can actually just, you know, at least be confident in that win. But I think the decks were very, very close. The techs were a little bit different, of course. I do honestly still like the Stranglethorn Tiger as an inclusion in Hunter. But yeah, I think that matchup went pretty well for Tyler, and SamuelTsao just got locked out.
I mean, I think you mentioned all the key points. I'm just curious to see if Tyler was tempted at all to move back to his primary after that huge blowout of Game 2. And we could get some more insight from him later on. But yeah, this is definitely not the last we're going to be seeing from Hunter this weekend. It is the most represented class, and all of them of the same archetype this week. Nobody's messing around with Mech Hunter anymore.
I approve.
Yes,
I
me
think
too.
Mech Hunter sucks, so I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the players are looking pretty good so far. That was day number 1. I do believe we are just trying to get hold of Tyler, so we're doing our best to make sure we can have a chat to him. There's a few things I do want to ask him, but that was a pretty big deal as well. Just give you an update on the standings here, is that Tyler was actually 2 wins and 2 losses, so he was even, but now he's 3-2, so he's now progressing into those positive results, whereas SamuelTsao goes down to 0-5. That is a mountain that he has to climb going forward, because he needs to start getting wins on the board, or he is in a bit of a rough spot in terms of just being able to play in the playoffs at the end of the season to potentially get a chance into the global finals. So it'll be absolutely huge. But any big surprises today for you?
Surprises is how often Edwin won Brawl, I would say.
Okay, reasonable.
But yeah, I mean, I'm just happy that we got to see different pan-outs as to how the Hunter Mirror works, because I think it gets a lot of flack just because people are still having PTSD from old mid-range Hunter.
Right.
But yeah, it seems that the deck is a lot more difficult to pilot nowadays. And as for SamuelTsao, it's really rough going 0-5, but I feel like his brings have been improving lately. I wasn't here to cast for the earlier weeks, but I do remember not liking the Mech Hunter choice at one point. And same with Staz, I think his list building has improved quite a bit,
Right.
and it can only be a good trend, I suppose, to see, because there are still quite a few more weeks.
Yeah, well, I believe Tyler is ready now, so hopefully he can hear us. So you can hear me, Tyler? Oh, hey, mate, what's up? So first off, again, congratulations on the win. I just want to ask how preparation went for this week, and also how comfortable you are in Hunter Mirrors, because you actually have 2 this weekend.
Yeah. So in prep, I prepped with Revius and Surrender, and basically Surrender was like, it's Bomb Warrior, and Revius was like, it's Hunter. So I was like, I don't know which deck to bring. And what made me decide to go with Hunter was that I just didn't want to bring the same deck 2 weeks in a row. I want some variety.
Yeah.
So, but I honestly couldn't decide. I think both Bomb Warrior and Hunter are just top tier, just really strong right now.
And what do you think of the mirror match? Because I think it's me and Gio have been talking about how it's got multiple different ways it gets played out, and it's actually very complicated in certain turns because it does get so close so often.
Yeah, it's actually so hard, like deciding when to Dire Frenzy and on what minion to do it. And especially like Zul'jin timing. Zul'jin timing is so important. Like in game 1, I think it was really important that I waited as long as possible. And like I went for the plan to Dire Frenzy my Timberwolf to pressure lethal, so that he had to play his Zul'jin first, and that worked out. So I think that generally the person, if both have Zul'jin, the person to Zul'jin second is in a pretty good spot usually, because that one clears everything and keeps the board for yourself. And yeah, Hunter's just a really slow mid-range deck right now. It really isn't smart, so very often the game goes very long. I mean, game 2 didn't go very long. Yeah. Like I just died to the hyena. That happens sometimes. Yeah. But generally, like game 1 and 3, both games, went to like turn 10 and where you get to play Zul'jin. Yeah. And it's noticeable because like we both queued tertiary both times, right? Yeah.
I actually wanted to ask, after that game 2 where the hyena went unanswered, did you get a little bit tempted to go back to your primary so you had maybe the hatchet to answer it?
Yeah, I was thinking about it, but I trusted my gut feeling, and I trusted. Before the match, I asked Casey, my teammate, just to make sure. We queued tertiary, right? Like in the other games, and he was like, "Yeah, for sure." So I just trusted Casey on that one.
Okay, well, trusting Casey often works out pretty well. I've learned at least overall. But yeah, any final comments just about, for me at least, for the lineup, like you don't have to reveal too much, of course, depending on what you want to, but your secondary deck is also super interesting, like the Revenge of the Wild and Grizzlies, and only if you want to, do you want to explain what the logic is there?
Yeah, that was just for aggro, really. Like either rogue that doesn't play sap or token druid or zoo. Any type of like crazy aggro. If anyone decides to bring that, then that deck would have been good.
Okay, cool.
But it was definitely not for the Hunter Mirror. Like for Hunter Mirror, like Savannah high main, like if you have coin high main, that's just really good.
Okay, cool. Well, congratulations once again. We'll let you go and start prepping for the other match this weekend. So good job.
Thank you very much, man.
Okay, well, always good to hear from Tyler, just in terms of he does like to break down his thoughts and decks pretty well. So we can check out the results from the day, as this is match number 5 done. We only have 5 matches on a Friday. Chonsu took a 0-2 loss to Surrender. It feels way back when now, but questions have to be asked about that Druid, and is it going to get a win in Chonsu's second match of the weekend? Then Frosty and Tom60229 showing Paladin gets there with a 4-0 over Hunter and Rogue respectively, each going 2-0 of course, so Holy Wrath Paladin looking absolutely fantastic.
I mean, Holy Wrath, we were talking for just forever about who's exactly favored, but I feel like among the mage counters, Paladin, Rogue, and Hunter being the 3 premier ones, I feel like if Paladin is actually favored against those other 2, it just makes sense to bring.
Right, it's just the strongest pick.
Yeah, it is just very weak against Bomb Warrior is the problem, but I'm excited to see how it's gonna pan out throughout the rest of the weekend and in the other regions, and see if it only gets stronger after the buffs, probably. Yeah, and then match 4 we saw StaZ versus Alutemu, which did come down to some pretty close decisions, and unfortunately, even though I thought StaZ was favored, Alutemu did very well pilot those rogue matchups to a victory there. And then we did just see SamuelTsao versus Tyler, which I think was a great refresher for anybody who is not familiar with how the mid-range Hunter matchup works right now.
Yeah, I mean, you heard it from Tyler. Hunter isn't just a smoke deck and that kind of just, always go phase. You do actually have to play with full consideration to the late game, planning your dive frenzies, planning your Zul'jin timing. So Tyler played really well there. Shout out as well to SamuelTsao. I think he did just get the unfortunate end of the stick in a couple of those games, but that's just the way Hearthstone goes. But there's plenty more matches coming up this weekend. On Saturday and Sunday, we will be back. But also, stay tuned if you want to keep hold of more Hearthstone and watch some more Europe as well, because that is coming up very, very quickly, and then America's going to follow after that.
If you want to see Mage, you didn't
if
see
you
it in
actually do want to see
APAC,
Mage,
but it will be showing up in the other regions, guys.
Yep, stay tuned. But thanks a lot from us for tonight. We are done, and we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night.